Hospital to share the information about sleep management. This is especially for the one who has snoring problem. If you have snoring problem, or your friend or your family member has such problem, I would like to once again call upon you to come to join us here at the CHE area. I would like to invite a consultant, ear, nose and throat, who is also the head and neck surgeon from KPJ Plain Specialist Hospital, Dr. Vincent Fong, to stage for the sharing of sleep management. 我们有请来自巴生 KPJ 专科医院的耳鼻喉科的顾问医生，为我们讲解睡眠管理的课题。
Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Thank you all for being present here at this time to spend your precious time with us. So, as the MC has introduced, I'm going to talk about sleep. I'm not here to sell any products, okay? What I'm saying will apply to this problem that you have, your spouse may have, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, or anybody in the household, or anybody you know that will have. Alright, so we're going to talk about something very common, but very often underestimated. It's something snoring. Oh, sorry. Okay, I will need you to control the slides there. Yeah. It's something to do with snoring. So it's something very, very common. Yeah. People think snoring is just a common occurrence, but actually nowadays the understanding of snoring is very different. So I am not here, as I said, to sell you the products, but it's good to understand that because this applies across the board in the field of snoring. Yeah. Okay. 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 The reasons you are here. I think there was a missing slide. Okay, let me just introduce this short intro of myself. I'm a consultant ENT, ear, nose and throat specialist. In this field, we see a lot of people with snoring. We see a lot of people with difficulty breathing. Okay, so snoring is very much part of this field. There was a missing slide just now. I'm from KPJ Plain Specialist Hospital. I would like to thank the organizer for having me up here today. So the reasons that you can be here today, I believe, are some of this. The first one, you or your bed partner or someone you know snores, or somebody asks you to time. Alright, free aircon, nice ambience, or you're walking too much, you feel tired, free chair, okay, and probably nothing better to do, or you hear that, this doctor is very lengthy, so you're here, okay? So maybe all you sincerely want to know something about snoring. So if the last reason is the reason why you're here, I hope I can be of help to you. Alright, I'm just going to talk briefly in this 20 minutes. It's a big topic, but to condense everything in 20 minutes is probably not as easy. So we're going to talk about some of the concepts that you need to understand. Even to surf the net later on, you need to have some of these concepts as well. How does it impact you? Are you at risk or the person you know at risk? How to check for it and treatment subsequently. Okay, I think many years ago, this musical movie took the world by storm. Alright? And as you have commonly heard as well, people like to say sleeping soundly, there's a missing word there. Okay. It should be, I think it's a problem. Okay. All of us would have heard the term sleeping soundly, giving us an impression that it's a very good sleep. Okay, and I believe some of you are probably even making live music in your bedroom. Either that or you're a victim of live music. So here we're talking about snoring, okay? So snoring can be a boon, can be a pain, can be a boon to the people in the bedroom, okay? So naturally we like to address this problem. Okay, anyone here that's not snoring or okay, anyone here you know somebody who snores? Yeah, okay, so you're here at the right place. Okay, there's a few terms that we commonly come across here. The word apnea is something you're going to come across very frequently when you hear about snoring. It's a medical term that means that you stop breathing for any time 10 seconds or more. Whether 11 seconds or 20 seconds, 59 seconds is still a single episode of apnea. Okay, next. Okay, maybe you can have a look at this video. Sorry, can you play the video? I think it's a very important video. It's something probably you come across. The video is actually trying to show you what is a very typical sleep apnea kind of a picture.
It's okay, we're having some technical problems here. We may give doctors some time. 我们有一点小小技术上的问题哈，不是大问题。趁这个时间，我想把坐在旁边的人，尤其是这边，如果可以移动是最好的。
So it is something that if you're sensitive or if you're not sleeping or you are not snoring yourself, you can pick this up in the person sleeping next to you. You can see, you come across a short period of choking in that person. So this is not a good sign, alright? This is not a good sign. And after the choking, starts to breathe normally again. Okay, so you have this sort of intermittent episodes in between. Okay, so that means there's blockage of the airway. And certain parts of the sleep, there will be blockage of the airway. Then as the blockage resolves, then the breathing resumes again. So the patient breathes normally again. But the part where the patient catches the breath, okay, that's the part that tells us there's a significant apnea, there's a significant blockage in the airway. So with that, it causes a lot of stress onto the brain, onto the heart. So a lot of health implications actually arise from these stresses in the body. So this condition is called OSA, right? Obstructive sleep apnea, right? Sorry, the font didn't turn out very well, but basically that's the word, obstructive sleep apnea, okay? It stands for when you sleep, you need to stop breathing because of obstruction in the airway, alright? Obstruction in the airway, obstructive. Okay, the word OSA, obstructive sleep apnea, is not an official secret act, okay? So it can happen in adults, it can happen in a child. Alright, so the child is not spared from the effect of sleep apnea. Okay, not all snoring are due to OSA. As you can see here, a lot of people actually snore, alright, especially if they're above 50. But sometimes there's something called primary snoring. That means you just snore, you just make a lot of noise, okay? You make a lot of noise, but actually there is no obstruction. Your sleeping wasn't as bad as we saw in the video. So this type of snoring generally is safe to the patient. It does not cause any health implications to the patient, but it causes a lot of annoyance to the person sleeping next to him or her. Okay, the main problem here is when you have OSA, when things are blocking it. Okay, so the narrowing of the airway causes a lot of turbulent airflow. With that, you get a lot of sound being generated from the turbulence. And as a result, there is acoustic event, which is sound. That's the cause of a lot of noise. So like I said, we can briefly classify snoring to primary snoring or those with obstructive sleep apnea. Okay? So just a reminder, snoring does not equal OSA. It's better to have this, although it will cause a lot of noise. It's better to have this than this, because in this there are serious health implications. And another thing that you should understand, absence of snoring does not exclude OSA. So even though you don't snore, it does not mean you don't have OSA. Okay? You could be so blocked so many times that you hardly make any noise, but you could be the worst patient to have OSA as well. So here, this obvious obstruction in airway going on. So look at the next slide. Okay, so these are the main symptoms of OSA. Okay, usually patient is sleeping, but it's usually reported by the person sleeping next to the patient. Alright, snoring. Okay, and as a patient, you can feel very tired the next day. Even though you may sleep for the next 12 hours, 14 hours, but you're always tired. You always feel tired even early in the morning. Okay, there are other things. Okay, loss of libido, impotence, you cannot rise up to occasion. Alright, some people put on weight as a result of tiredness, causing hormonal imbalance. Okay, you can see that the person, okay, may not have very good sleep. Even though his eyes may be closed, but he's probably tossing and turning in the bed. Alright, and as a patient, the patient probably have a headache, they feel very grouchy the next day. Alright, so they feel very irritable, they cannot focus on the job that they're doing, or sometimes they actually complain of dry throat. Because when nose is blocked, you tend to open your mouth and breathe. Okay, but these are bad signs. This may be picked up by the person sleeping next to the patient. Alright, like I show you the video, you witness that here means the person seeing the patient stop breathing, okay? Or some patient, you can actually tell us that they suddenly choke as they sleep. They awaken because they try to catch your breath. Alright, sudden awakening. So these are signs that your sleep apnea is probably quite bad. But why bother? Why I will be educating you about all this, okay? It's no longer sleeping soundly a good thing, alright? It's not only just a noise pollution for the person next to you. I have a patient whose spouse is sleeping in another room. Okay, so much so that is also a term, spousal arousal syndrome. So husband and wife cannot get along because of one's, sound. Okay, and excessive daytime sleepiness is a problem. Okay, and I think beyond all, it's definitely a health risk here. It is clinically proven. It's not what I said. It's all proven. And the worst part, it kills slowly. In most patients, it kills slowly. But there's one way that it can kill you very fast. Okay, if you happen to be sleepy behind the wheel, driving, can you imagine what kind of impact would that be? Not only kills you, it kills the people around you. So, it can affect you as a patient who's very sleepy all the time, or most of the time. You'll get bad appraisals from your boss. It affects you generally, socially as well. And if you're handling important things like machinery, verifying minute work, that can be a problem. For example, we're handling very, very important mission assignment. Can you imagine what that do to you and the people around you? Okay? Alright, if you look at medical journals, you're going to come across a lot of medical terms. But don't worry, we will not go there. I'll make it very simple for you. Next like this. Okay? Sorry for the phone, it didn't turn out well on the laptop. Basically, the two main problems come from oxygenation problem and sleep quality problem. Okay, so from oxygenation point of view, you can see it causes a lot of side implications here. Right? You can get heart disease. These are all proven. It's not what I say. It's all been proven in medical journals. Heart disease, stroke, sudden death, basically you die in your sleep. Okay? It's not like today you know about this, tomorrow you'll be there. Okay, no. It's a slow, ongoing process because of stress in your body. Until one part of the night, your body cannot take it anymore. You probably die as a result of stroke or as a result of heart attack. Okay, this lipidemia means, alright, there is cholesterol imbalance in the body. People put on weight, and it also accelerates the rate that you get diabetes as well. Metabolic syndrome is a combination of these three. Yeah, it also starts you off on a hypertension earlier in life, and if you already have hypertension, it makes the control harder. You may not need just one medication, you need many medications to control your problem. Next, sleep quality. I think we talked about this just now, where the excessive sleepiness gives you a lot of problem. Okay, so including temper issues. Alright, so do not ignore this. Sleep is very often under prioritized in our busy life. Okay, so you can see this is statistics, and this statistics has already been present a few years back, and today the statistics are even worse. Okay, so all this has been proven. The risk of accident goes up tremendously, and the risk of cardiovascular death has also been proven. So, like I said, this is not something what we say to make you get a product or something, but it's already been something that's proven within the medical community. Just that we are hoping that the public gets alerted, gets aware, being aware of all these things going on. So it has been proven by a large numbers of studies, and each study has many patients that have enrolled. Alright, these are independent studies, meaning to say it is not signing with any company to sell any product, but these are across medical impartial studies. And it's not just in the European or American continent, it's across the world, in Asian continent, in different continents, and this has been done over many years. So this gives strength to the medical practice, the medical studies, to say we do not doubt these findings. And these are clinically proven, clinically tested. Okay? So what does a good sleep mean to most people? Alright? You may think good sleep is something like this, but from a medical point of view, okay, good sleep actually means good not just by quantity in terms of number of hours, but also quality. So both have to exist at the same time. Okay, so this is a brief representation of sleep. When we sleep, we go through different stages, different sleep cycles, and all sleep cycles have to be present for you to get a good sleep. And there are different parts of the sleep where you need all. You lack of one, it definitely affects your sleep. Okay, this is very technical. I will not elaborate on this, but it's important for us as laymen to know your sleep has to be enough in terms of number of hours. When you have enough number of hours, you must also have the necessary architecture within that. So if you're working on a shift, you sleep 2 hours, you may have this, but it's still not enough. You have 7 hours, 8 hours, but you don't have this, also not enough. Okay? So you need a combination of this. Okay, what are the risk factors? Alright? So, wait. Alright, obesity is definitely number one. Okay, so you can go back, look into the mirror, see whether you belong to this group. Okay, you probably know yourself. Okay, so obesity is definitely risk factor. A short introduction or a short idea that I can give you is if you compare yourself, okay, look at the mirror. Normally what we do is we call it the box versus content. Box refers to a little outline in your face versus the content, whatever's in the box. So big box, big content will still be narrowed, okay? Because still narrowing will cause a lot of blockage. If you have a small box, big content also not good. So what is good is, big box, small content. Meaning to say, if you have a big jaw, whatever sits in your mouth, in your throat, everything smaller, that's good for you as a patient, okay? Because the likelihood of it blocking is much, much lesser. Alright, but in children, things are very different, okay? All snoring and apnea is abnormal in children. Do not think that children will not have sleeping problems. If they're opening their mouth most of the night as they sleep, there's probably something wrong with them, okay? Once in a while, they're very tired, it's okay to snore, alright? But if you see them drooling, they cannot sleep every night, they're tossing and turning, please get them investigated, okay? Because very likely, what you don't see may already be present there. It could be the front of the nose, block back of the nose, or even the throat. Okay, so see and get it sorted out. Some patients, they have breathing so difficulty, so much so you can see here the picture, the chest wall is sunken inwards. I do have patients with bad sleep apnea. They have later just gone to GPs without proper treatment, proper investigations, and we realize after we check that there's a lot of blockage within. So do not ignore the signs, okay? So if your sixth sense tells you there's something not right, it's better to get it sorted out. Children can have, in fact, there are a lot of children with these problems. Okay, I can speak from my experience, my son has the same problem too, and they have sorted it out. Okay, how you investigate? So we suspect something, the next one will be how we want to check. Alright, so please don't Facebook, please don't use email just to ask questions. That will not solve your problem. Normally, you will still need to present yourself in the clinic so that the doctor will be able to check you in person. Of course, it will be good to message and so that you get an idea. But the eventual investigations will come down to a face-to-face because the doctor needs to see you, need to touch you, need to do the necessary examination for you. Okay? Sometimes you use questionnaires to screen. Alright? Pick up what are the most likely patients to have this problem. And there's something called PSG, polysomnograms, and which I'll talk about in a while. Okay, next. So when we do a scope, alright, EEG, for us this is something very common. Alright, we put a little camera, basically put an ice in your nose and your throat to see what's going on. Okay, you can get this picture from my webpage. Okay, basically it shows a lot of, as the scope goes in, okay, you can see a lot of blockage between the nose, between the throat, from the front of the nose, the little hole, all the way to the back. So many things can go wrong here. So it's the role of the doctor to pick up all these problems. That's why I said you got to present yourself to the clinic. It's not an online diagnosis. Okay? So from the simple fact you open your mouth is full of the tongue, full of the tonsils, okay? So definitely there's going to be a blockage. And you got to remember, when you see the doctor, you're awake. When you are asleep, all your muscles become relaxed, become more lax. You're going to have more blockage because the whole muscles will relax. And what you see in the morning will become worse than that. Okay, so your doctor will have this role to play to exclude all this problem. You can see this is a mouth. This is simple. This is something you can see now. If you ask them to open the mouth, you can see this for yourself. This is a mouth that's full of tonsils. Alright? Normally it should not be so crowded. You can see here, there's hardly any hole. There's just a little tiny hole for you to breathe. What should be the airway is supposed to be here, but you can see about 80% are already filled up by tonsil tissue. Okay? Or sometimes you ask them to open the mouth, this is what we assess them. You want to see how much of the throat or the oral cavity is being filled up by tongue. So this gives us an idea how narrow the airway is. Or some people, they have problems with the nose, yeah, and this is the back of the tongue, or sometimes you can see that the whole tongue actually collapses backwards. So those are not good signs. Alright, so these are the things when we do, and we scope, a little camera that goes in gives us a lot of information. The other thing that we do, is called PSG. Simple term, it's called study. Alright, sleep study also has a lot of advantages. It detects a lot of parameters that we don't see in the morning while the patient's awake. But here basically it detects a lot of eye movement, a lot of brain waves, your oxygen saturation, to know how much oxygenation or how much lacking of oxygenation you have, whether you're actually breathing well. Okay, so it can be used before a treatment, it can be used after a treatment, it can be used to guide treatment as well. Next. So basically after the sleep study, you can see based on the severity, this is how we use to stratify the risk of a patient, to know how severe the patient is. Next. Okay, this is what we call a full sleep study. That means it's done in the sleep lab. It's set up, that's done, purpose built for this study, where you are wired up. Next, you can see, next. You can see how the patient is being wired up. So this is a very complete sleep study, alright? But it normally needs you to sleep in the clinic or the hospital setting. Generally, people see this wire, they get scared, alright? Not to mention you sleep in the hospital, I'm scared of ghosts in the hospital, I'm in a setup that I'm not familiar, I cannot sleep. So the problem with full sleep study, full PSG is that you're in an unfamiliar environment, you cannot sleep well. Not only that, it's also most expensive for the few sleep studies. So now, technology has advanced in such a way that we can do this at home, in the comfort of your home, next to the person that you always sleep with. Okay? So that's the beauty of it, and it's accurate. Okay? So next. So you can see the wiring is extensive. I'm not sure if anybody can sleep. Honestly, I don't think I cannot sleep. Okay? But although this gives a good representation, but some of the extra information may not be very useful. So we have come to a compromise that we can do a partial sleep study. A good partial sleep study can give us information to guide our treatment. Alright? But it also allows you to sleep well. Next. Alright, there's something called ambulatory sleep study. Alright, you can do this at home. So in an environment that you're very familiar with, you have no problem falling asleep. So this will be the most representative for the way you sleep every night. So nowadays these are widely available. So basically a scope tells us, or endoscopy tells us where your nose and your throat is blocked. But as the result of the blockage, this will tell you how bad are those obstruction, how bad are those effects on your sleep. So this will tell us the severity. So both are complementary with each other. It gives you an idea, as a result of the blockage, how bad is your sleep study. So normally it correlates very well. Again, it's a role of the doctor to tell you how bad you are, and this information is used to guide treatment. Next. Okay, before we even talk about the real treatment, a lot of people are also not having good sleep habits. So good sleep habits means probably no handphone nowadays, no devices, no screen. Alright? We don't encourage heavy sedatives, sleeping pills, alcohol. Stop smoking if you can. Exercise and lose weight. These are general wisdom. Alright, for good sleep habit, or we call sleep hygiene. Have regular sleeping hours. Of course, people who work shift, that can be a problem. But for the rest of us, try and sleep almost the same time, wake up almost the same time. This is what we call good hygiene, where possible. Okay? Alright, so next. Okay. There are some patients whose conditions are so bad that simple habits like what we mentioned earlier will not help. So next we talk about the real treatment for sleep apnea. So number one, you've got to confirm that you have sleep apnea. Number two, you've got to know how severe you are. Number three, then once you know how severe you are, you start treating based on the severity. How aggressive the treatment depends very much on how aggressive you think you need. How bad are your other comorbids? Comorbids mean like you have sleep apnea, whether you have heart problem, you have stroke before, you have diabetes. This will decide how aggressive the doctor would like to treat you. So this looks like a mask that you wear, but basically the mask is used to push air into your passageway to keep it open, so you can breathe well through the night. In fact, CPAP is the gold standard in patients with moderate sleep apnea, severe sleep apnea. Alright? So some patients will not respond very well to surgery. We know that from the severity, the studies done before we suggest the treatment. So CPAP may cover just your nose, may cover just your face. So we have to go through a period of trial of this device. Don't look down on this. This is still the gold standard. It works very well. Okay, as long as you don't hit at the first sight, I think there is a role for this. Okay, and in fact, some patients, they have never felt they have slept so well. rest of their life until they try this. Okay, but there are other alternatives as well. Okay, for people with sleep apnea, that's less severe. Can you have the next slide? Okay, there are various upper airway surgeries that we can do. After we do a scope, we know what is the narrowing, where is the narrowing. So we can target specific sites through surgeries. Nowadays, there are many options available, many devices, tools, and many different surgical techniques. Just to address the uvula abdomen, probably at least 20 techniques out there. So there are many options that you can discuss with your surgeon using what is familiar with, based on his feedback, what works best for you. Okay, so I leave that to you to discuss with your surgeon. Next. So we can fix the nose, alright? Fix the throat. Okay, so wherever is blocked, you can see here that the whole nose is blocked by polyp. So you definitely have to remove the polyps. Otherwise, even if you use a CPAP, it will not work very well. Okay, so you have to see whatever problem, the nose is bad on one side, if whatever fleshy structures enlarged, you've got to trim that down. Alright, so surgery will go hand in hand with things like the CPAP as well. Next. Okay, there are something called oral appliances, something like the denture that you use. Okay, so basically this is used to push your tongue out, okay, so that your tongue don't fall backwards as you sleep, or something that push your lower jaw in front to open up your airway back. Alright, so again, this is something you probably have to try. Not everybody would like the same thing. Next. Alright, if you belong to this group, okay, you probably need something to help you reduce weight, to force you not to eat so much. If the brain, through the brain doesn't work, you probably have to get something to tie up your tummy, literally. So the surgeons will use what we call a band to tie up the tummy, the stomach, or cut off part of your stomach. Okay, of course this is not done by ENT, these are done by the GI, gastrointestinal surgeons, or nowadays there's a team called bariatric surgeon. So these are for the extreme cases where if you can't stop yourself from eating, people will help to stop you from eating. Okay, so these are some of the options available. So as a conclusion, I hope by now you understand that simple snoring is different from OSA. So people who snore may not have OSA. People who does not snore can also have OSA. Okay? So sleep quality is very important, quality and quantity. Okay, so that is really important even though you try not to underemphasize the need for this. All sleep apnea, small snoring is normal in the child. And nowadays technology has advanced so much so that it is so customer friendly and checks are readily available. Most ENTs are ready to be able to help you with this problem. Okay? Scope is something very basic technique, but it uses a lot of information that we can do to help you. Okay, sleep study nowadays you can do it at home, so it's very user friendly on your end as well. There are a lot of treatment out there. There are some that's verified, there are some are just appearing on Facebook, there are some that's been proven through the clinical studies. So you need to see the respective doctors to discuss with them. Okay? And, like I say, we take into consideration the other diseases as well, okay, because that will decide how aggressive we like to treat you. So, just in case any of you should buy, next. And, if you really need to, okay, tahan. Next. So, I hope by the end of this talk, your mission, should you choose to accept it, this mission is really possible, alright? I hope by now you will know that you need to know your difference between the sleep apnea, obstructive sleep apnea, and your snoring. So sort it out, alright? Sort it out. With this, I think I would like to thank you all very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Winston Tan, for information sharing these sessions. And you can receive the